is the story of a child whose father died within 2 years, and his mother worked very hard to raise him. The child faced betrayal from his business partner, but despite all of this, he created the most luxurious car of the century, the Mercedes-Benz. The child was a driver, and his mother was a housewife. When Karl Benz was 2 years old, his father died, and his mother had to work in different places to support him. Karl Benz saw his mother's hard work and became a good student. At the age of 15, he qualified for the mechanical engineering exam and took admission in the Polytechnical School. After completing his engineering studies, he worked at 7 different places. He worked at an iron construction company, sometimes as a draftsman, sometimes as a designer. While working, he observed his environment and realized one thing, that the horse carriages, horse carts, would no longer be used and that cars would be made instead, which were yet to exist. At the age of 27, Karl Benz left his job and made a mechanic his business partner. The mechanic's name was August Ritter, and together they opened an iron factory. In his free time, Mr. Benz always worked on creating a car that could move on its own. Karl was uncertain because his business partner, August Ritter, also owned shares in the company. And Karl couldn't leave the company because his food and living expenses were dependent on the factory. In this bad situation, a woman helped him, and this woman's name was Bertha Ringer, who later became his wife. Now, Bertha's family had saved some money for her dowry. What Bertha did was take some of that money and bought all of August Ritter's shares, making her and Karl Benz the only owners of the iron factory. Over the next 10 years, they acquired many patents, such as a patent for igniting the engine's battery, a patent for creating the gear shift, another for the clutch, one for the carburetor, one for cooling the engine, one for the spark plug, and one for the speed regulator. Despite acquiring all these patents, the company was still not making money. So Mr. Karl Benz sold some of the company's shares to investors in exchange for money. This process continued, and eventually, Karl Benz was left with only 5% of the company's shares. As a result, the remaining investors demoted him to a lower position, which made Karl very sad. He realized that he could not achieve his dreams in this company, so he left the company and returned to square one. A few weeks later, Benz met two brothers named Max Rose and Friedrich Wilhelm, who owned a bicycle shop. The three of them started a new company called Benz & Co. This company quickly succeeded, and Benz had more time to work on his engine. In 1885, they made a car that collided with a wall, and because of this, the model didn't sell much. The very next year, in 1886, they released Model 2, and 2 years later, Model 3. Mr. Benz's wife, Bertha, believed that Model 3 was very good and needed publicity. But Mr. Benz didn't agree. He knew that, like Model 1, if Model 3 also collided, they would never sell again. Therefore, he did not publicize it. Then, on 4th August 1888, Bertha decided to take action. She secretly went to her 5 children, told 2 of them something, and went back to her husband. The next morning, what she did was beyond anyone's imagination. Bertha Benz, the next day, secretly woke up, took her to sons, Richard and Eugene, with her, took the Benz Model 3, started the car, and headed to her mother's house, which was 106 kilometers away. On the way, when people saw her, they were frightened and called it a ghost car because no one understood what it was that was moving on its own with no horse. Despite that, Mrs. Benz continued driving. At that time, the Model 3 had only 45 liters of fuel. She stopped at a pharmacy to buy Ligroin, a petroleum solvent, because back then there were no petrol stations. The pharmacy where she stopped is now known as the first fuel station of the world. Moreover, since the roads were not that good, the car kept breaking down. Bertha had to stop the car, get the children out, repair the car with her hairpin, and then continue driving for a few kilometers. Along the way, her car's brakes, which were made of wood, wore down, so she stopped at a cobbler's shop and had leather brakes installed. It took Bertha and her two sons 12 hours to cover the 106 kilometers. When they reached her mother's house, they told Mr. Benz that they had arrived. After a few days, they returned in the same car to Karl Benz. This trip gave their business a lot of publicity, and even the improvements in the brakes were shared with Karl, leading to changes in the design. This is how, for the first time, a wife brought her husband's invention to the world. Due to Bertha's actions, the company received a lot of publicity, and their internal combustion engine sold very well. Benz became the world's largest automobile company, and in 1897, they sold 72 cars. This was a huge number for that time, as everyone still used horse-drawn carts, and only the rich could afford cars. At this point, Benz company was doing very well, but there was another company that became their competitor, and that company also started making very good cars. This competitor was Daimler Motors, whose owners were two engineers, Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach. Daimler was not only an excellent engineer, but also a good businessman who knew how to extract maximum profit from his business. However, Karl Benz was not that skilled in business. In 1887, the Daimler engine company made a car that became very famous, and after that, Germany's economic situation worsened, leading to a decline in sales for both Benz and Daimler cars. Both companies decided to merge, and they did, naming the new company Daimler-Benz. From then on, every model produced by the company was called Mercedes-Benz. The famous designer Ferdinand Porsche designed many of their models. In April 1929, Karl Benz died at the age of 84, and after that, Adolf Hitler entered the scene. Hitler loved Mercedes-Benz so much that he traveled in it, and he wanted the world to know that Germany made the best cars. He told Daimler-Benz to make a car that was the fastest in the world, and that's what happened. In all the car races worldwide, Mercedes-Benz cars won the most. There was another company, Auto Union, which was also winning car races, but they were also a German company. In 1939, World War II began. During the war, Hitler ordered most of Germany's companies to make products for the army. Therefore, Daimler-Benz stopped making its regular cars and started producing vehicles and trucks for Nazi Germany. Hitler even made the company hire female workers, but when that didn't work out, they started using prisoners. At one point, 63,000 prisoners were working for Daimler-Benz. When Germany lost the war, the company's image was badly damaged because of the forced labor used. After the war, all their manufacturing plants outside Germany were taken over, and only those in Germany remained. Afterward, the company began rebuilding its image by making ambulances and police vehicles, and later, they resumed making cars for regular people. If we look at the financial year 2022, they sold 2.4 million cars, totaling a value of 13,640 billion Indian rupees. So the next time you see a Mercedes, don't just admire its shine, but also feel the passion that brought it to life. Because true luxury is not just in things, but in the mindset. And if you want to understand the depth of this mindset regarding money, then do check out our previous video, Is Money Just an Illusion? You might find the answers there.